Valley chapter. This is really exciting. Our first turnout was great. Our second turnout looks great. First time around, the Charlottesville chapter was getting restarted again. So we met then, and we're excited to be able to partner this time around.
Yeah, that was the first Shenandoah Valley event I was able to attend.
Yay!
And it was wonderful.
Love that.
Crozet is a nice middle ground.
Yeah. So perfect.
Yeah. I'm Jeremy Stern. I'm the host of Creative Mornings Charlottesville, which is normally the third Friday of every month. So if you also find yourself in a space between the two and you would like 2 Creative Mornings in your life every month, it is very doable from a calendar perspective.
Yeah. And our crew's used to traveling, so like no excuses, anybody. Like you can travel, and it's worth it.
And the Creative Mornings email system lets you register for at least 2 chapters. So, and I think both of us are pretty minimal in our emails, so it's not
you won't
bad.
get too overwhelmed, I promise.
Yeah.
All right, something I love to do, raise of hands, who's at a Creative Mornings, regardless of chapter, for the first time today?
Yeah, and I mostly just have a lot of thanks. So thank you to Bar Botanical for hosting us, for the space. And if you are from further afield and haven't been to Charlottesville in a while, there's also a Botanical Fair in Charlottesville, another great place to check out. But yeah, thank you all so much. Also, thank you to Corbin for providing photography today that will eventually make its way onto the Creative Mornings website that you can check out. And Ian for recording this talk. If you are feeling very inspired and want to watch this again later, or you have a friend that wishes they were here and couldn't make it, there'll be a recording to look at later. Also, if this is your first time and you're feeling like, man, you can't believe you've been missing out on this for years, good news, the website is full of recordings of old talks that you can watch. Any other thanks that I'm missing? Also, I'll quickly thank some of the Charlottesville sponsors that helped provide some of this, which is UVA Arts, the Phelan Museum at the University of Virginia, and New City Arts in Charlottesville. So thank all of you. And for the Shenandoah Valley, thank all of you who have been donating. I know there is an opportunity to donate up at the front, and you can do it online. So thank you for helping both of our groups continue to provide this event. And I think the last piece is to ask someone to read the Creative Mornings Manifesto.
Yes.
Is there anyone interested?
Don't jump at once. Time to be brave.
Right, sorry.
I just stand here.
You can stand there.
Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty, and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
And I would next like Martin to come up and tell us a little bit more about this gorgeous space and fantastic food that we're enjoying this morning, to hear a little bit more about Bar Botanical and let you know where and when and how you can enjoy it.
Yeah, morning everyone. I'm Martin. My partner is the owner-operator of this great restaurant. So this is our second location. We have one in downtown Charlottesville as well. We live in Crozet though, and we love the space, so we wanted to try and build community out here as well. So that's the general concept of what we're trying to do. We're also trying to make it, or just sort of make people aware that vegan food is not maybe the gross, bland food that you grew up thinking it was. So we're trying to, it's a vegan restaurant bar, so we're trying to get people in with the alcohol and then make them stay for food. So, we do all sorts of events in the area. We have drag shows at both locations. We do trivia here once a month. We do workout, yoga and certain workout classes out on the patio during the warmer months. We also do live music out there. It's a great venue for live music. So you can catch all that on our events page at botanicalfair.com, or just follow us on social media to figure out. We do all sorts of meetups, special groups that come in during our operating hours, just kind of collaborate. It's a very casual concept, so it's not something where it's a table service type of thing. So you can come hang out on the couch with your friends, meet up for a few hours, just enjoy the food, the ambiance. Yeah.
And as a meat eater, I think this place is amazing. It was vegan.
Yeah. If there's meat eaters in your family, you can definitely trick them into something.
This is true.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you guys.
Wonderful. All right, everybody. My name is Annika Horn. I am the co-host together with Megan, and I feel like I say this every time, but I'm just so thrilled to see so many beautiful people come to these convenings. Collaborating with Charlottesville was on our dream list when we started this, because we believe what's better than community is two communities coming together and sharing space and sharing experience. So I'm really thrilled that we were able to make it happen. And maybe this is just the first annual shared joint event, and maybe a year from now we'll have a revival of this format and just keep bringing it back together. I love the theme revival because it means you bring something back that at some point in time was dear to you, was important to you, was defining of a certain area or chapter of your life. So while it's never going to be the same again, I feel we all have an urge to sometimes reconnect with something that was that thing. That's why I think 80s parties are a real hit, at least for me. Or class reunions can be really fun. Personally, I would love to see a revival of the Spice Girls and just yes. So I'm all about revival. I'm really excited to bring Matt up here in a minute to talk about it. Matt is an artist who originally hails from New Orleans and brought his beautiful family to Stanton a few years ago. You can find him in his, do we call it a studio? At the Shenandoah Valley Arts Center over in Waynesboro, if you've ever been. And I mean it, you can find him. When I go to SVAC, I walk upstairs and say, hey Matt, what's up? And look at the art and just be in conversation with the artist, which is wonderful. And as you will hear from Matt's talk, revival is a theme in his work and has defined his career, so I'm really excited to bring you up. Before we do that, I would love our volunteer super champion, Maggie, to come up here and guide us through today's creative activity. For those who have never been to our event, we pride ourselves in making people really uncomfortable at the beginning of the event by doing a creative activity to get us in the right mindset, to loosen us up, to make it all a little less awkward by making it really awkward, and then after that, anything goes. So Maggie, please take it away.
This one shouldn't be too painful. So on the theme of revival, we're passing around some paper and pen. Want you to think about what's your favorite revival of late, something that brings you joy. Either sketch that, write about it, and then we'll discuss it with your neighbor or a small group around you, just to get to know each other a little better and have some fun. Like for an example, flare jeans are mine. So.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out. My name is Matt, and I am an illustrator, though it took me a while to start calling myself that. I went to school for graphic design. It seemed like the most practical major in art school, the most likely to get a job. I think if I had been less of a coward, I probably would have done painting or filmmaking or something. But it worked. I got pretty steady work, and I was around 30, and I found myself living in New Orleans, and I was working at a ad agency that did primarily casino marketing, and it was awful. The pace was grueling. The work was not creatively rewarding at all. It was a lot of slot tournaments and truck giveaways and $100 bills falling down from the sky. And at the end of the day, I'd get home just completely drained with no headspace to make any of my own personal art. And then one day, I went to a coffee shop around the corner from my house, and I see this woman sitting there drawing in her sketchbook, and I didn't even know you could do that. It seemed crazy to me. Which is funny now. I've done hundreds of hours of that since. But I see her drawing, and I look down at her work, and I actually recognized her work. she designed a T-shirt for a Facebook friends hipster moped club down in New Orleans. It was a super cool T-shirt, and I recognized her style. And she was really talented, but it wasn't like that unattainable level of talent that some artists are, where like I could devote the rest of my life to that and not even get close. I could see her working there focused, and something in my brain just kind of switched, where suddenly I could see the growth mindset of art in a perfect example. And it seems obvious now, but I had this epiphany of, oh, she's really good at drawing because she spends her free time drawing. After that, I started taking my sketchbook to work with me, and my coffee breaks, I go out and spend an hour just doodling and listening to music, and it really became a thing that I looked forward to every day. And after doing this for a while, a coworker came up to me and said, hey, I know this guy in Mississippi. He's got a brewery called Southern Prohibition, and he needs a label done. I thought of you because I know you've been drawing. So I met with the guy, and pretty soon I had my first freelance illustration gig. It was for a beer called Karaoke Face Plant. That was based on a true story of a friend of his who took a header off the stage during karaoke. And at first it was a drawing of the guy, but he was too embarrassed, so I had to swap the face out. And I figured, you know what? I'm never going to do another beard label. I might as well make it a self-portrait. So that was the first beer label. I don't even want, it's awful, I don't want to look at it, but it's important to the story. And the brewery must have liked it because they had me do more and more and more. And it progressed to the point where, I'd work a full day at my office job and then come home and have to do another 3 or 4 hours of freelance. And I was quickly getting burnt out. I knew it was unsustainable. And I had to take a leap of faith. And I quit the day job, but not before securing a retainer from the brewery, because the whole feast or famine aspect of freelance was terrifying to me. And it was a few years into this journey of doing beer labels full time, and the owner of the brewery, decided he wanted to open a second brewery, and this one was going to be in New Orleans. And he brought down this guy, Bobby, he knew from Brooklyn, to help run it. And I started working closely with Bobby, trying to figure out, what is this place even going to be like? And it was important to me that the work looked very different than what I was doing with Southern Prohibition. So I was going to avoid illustration and kind of fall back on some skills from my graphic design days, a lot of Photoshop, some 3D rendering, that kind of stuff. And getting to know Bobby, he was really funny, super smart, had great ideas for beer names, had a real thing for nostalgia in the 90s. And I wanted that personality to really come through in the artwork. And he kicked around a few different names. We weren't sure what to call it. Sorry, I jumped ahead of my slides. But we ended up calling it All Relation. And, well, I'm way ahead of my slides. Okay. We ended up calling it All Relation. And the first beer that we did, he showed me this picture. He said, hey, do you remember these sheets? And I didn't have them, but it unlocked the memory of a sleepover in elementary school, and a friend totally had them. Someone in this room probably had them. They're just kind of ubiquitous. And I love this picture. It's so silly, like the tablecloth and the curtain, like what sociopath would live in this room? And it seemed like the obvious thing to do would be to push it even further. So our first label was 90 sheets. And I put that pattern on every surface I could. The floor, the wall, the posters on the wall, the lamp, the guitar, everything. And it really set the tone for all their labels moving forward. It was very earnest, serious executions of very silly ideas. We even expanded this one series into 90 streets with some exterior, the same thing. But all his labels kind of follow that suit. They were pretty silly. They never took themselves too seriously. They felt a little nostalgic, kind of out of time. And overnight, all relation blew up. Bobby was the best brewer I've ever met. His brewery is fantastic. So that was a big part of it. And also they spent a lot of money making a gorgeous tap room. So New Orleans really responded to it. And it was January 2020, and things were going really great for both breweries. So I renegotiated again, and I lost a retainer, and now I would have been making 4% of all the money that both breweries brought in. Suddenly I was in a position where I was going to be making six figures, doing literally my dream job. And March 2020, I don't have to remind anybody what that was like, both tap rooms shut down overnight, and the breweries went into survival mode, and they weren't going to be releasing any new beers. So the first fat to get cut from the budget, unsurprisingly, was the full-time artist. And COVID was awful for everybody, but I was absolutely devastated. I felt like my career was over. I felt like a failure, even though I also thought I was doing some of the best work that I'd ever made. I thought for sure I was going to have to tuck tail and go back to the corporate world and give up the freedom that I'd worked so hard to get. But for the meantime, I was getting unemployment, and my wife still had her job, albeit remotely. So we were getting by. But I had full days to fill with absolutely nothing to do. Luckily, I make my best art when I'm depressed. Yeah. I spent full days browsing the Library of Congress, just downloading anything that caught my eye. And pretty soon I had a giant collection of hoe-to-made photography. And I would spend my days clipping out individual elements and building new scenes out of them, often using a dozen or more different pictures to create something, adding real dramatic lighting and making something sort of surreal and dreamlike and mystical and dark. And I was obsessed. I was working basically 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, though my wife reminded me it was 7. And yeah, I couldn't stop doing it. One common theme that kind of tied a lot of these together was the structure that I found on the Library of Congress, referred to as the Nakoma Pyramid, because it's in Nakoma, North Dakota, and it's on the Air Force Base, and it's a old defunct air defense system. And there it is. I love it. It's so imposing and dystopian and futuristic, but also old. And I kind of would put it in the background subtly, sometimes not so subtle. And it sort of became a way to tie all these things together as if they live in a shared world, kind of just like implied lore that lets the viewers sort of make a story out of the images. And, I thought what I was doing was interesting. I thought it was worth sharing. So I entered some pieces into a show at the Ogden Museum of Southern Art down in New Orleans, and this piece got in, to my surprise. It's called Every Man a King, and that is a quote from Huey P. Long, who was a governor, senator in Louisiana in the 30s. And the image is made up of construction photos of the Huey P. Long Bridge, which spans the Mississippi. I put it here over the ruins of Hiroshima, and it just makes us really foreboding, again, with the storm coming in and everything, and the super dramatic lighting. And I just, I kept making these, submitting them into shows when I could, and got into a few regional museums and galleries and stuff. And around that same time, Bobby, his employers from Brooklyn, his old employers, other half, who were a hugely popular brewery, they said, hey, would you come back and help us open a brewery in DC? And COVID era brewing for him was just a nightmare. It was a thankless grind. He was barely making any money. And even though it was a hard decision to make, he decided to shut down all relation and go back to something a little more steady, a little more stable. And he was reluctant to leave New Orleans, but it was the right thing to do, and he did. And I just want to say I think New Orleans is the best city in the world. I haven't done the legwork to really back up that claim, but I love it. It's a special place. COVID New Orleans fucking sucked. You take the restaurants and bars and live music and festivals out of New Orleans, you're just left with a hot, dirty slab of concrete in the swamp. And so we thought it would be a good time to sort of explore our own options. And my wife's got some family in Asheville. We love visiting them. And we love the mountains. And we said, people live in the mountains. It's a thing that you could do. So we did a tour through Virginia. And Stanton was the last stop. And we were very charmed by it. It's a cool little town. So we took a leap of faith. And my wife, 2 months pregnant, we moved to a totally different state where the closest family or friends were hours away. And it was scary, but I think it was the right thing to do. And around that time, Bobby had gotten settled in at DC, and he got me in the door to do a couple labels with Other Half. So their labels typically are very simple. It'll just be like a gradient or a real simple vector pattern. So these are very different than anything else that they were putting out. And it was huge exposure for me because they had a giant following, much bigger than the other two breweries I was working for. So these beers came out, and a different brewery emailed Other Half and said, hey, who did this art? It's obviously not your normal people. And that brewery was Cellar Maker, place out of San Francisco. And they emailed me and they said, we love your work. How much does a label cost? And then hit them back with, well, it's cheaper if you get a package of 5. And to my surprise, they bit. And we just really hit the ground running. They quickly became my biggest client. And it felt like working with All Relation again because they're really funny, super creative. Just gave me great beer names. And it took no time before we fell into a level of trust where they say, hey, here's the beer name. I don't know. And I would just have to figure something out, which to me is always the most fun part. Like the concept stage is a lot more fun than the execution stage. And around that same time, Southern Prohibition reached back out and they said, hey, we're rebranding. We're going to be So Pro now. And we want you to revisit some of your old work and come up with some new labels. So suddenly I was super busy, bouncing back and forth between the two breweries. And it really felt, like things were back on track. I was feeling good about everything. And we wrap up the rebrand for So Pro. Oh, and I also used some skills I picked up during COVID, and even got to hide the pyramid in a couple labels. So around February and March, a few years ago, we just finished up all the rebrand stuff, and the owner of So Pro calls me. He's like, hey, thanks so much. Everything looks great. We love it. We're going to be scaling back, and there's not going to be any new beer releases for at least the rest of the year. Thanks, but we're not going to need your services, basically. Which was unexpected. I didn't see that coming at all, and freaked out about money. But, Cellar Maker was keeping me pretty busy, so I was still squeaking by at the time. And then a couple months go by, and I'm just browsing Instagram one day on my phone, and a new So Pro beer pops up. And it's not my art. And I look closely, and it's clear that it's AI art. Yes, thank you. Which I could do a whole another 20 minutes on AI art. But, it was pretty devastating, and I didn't expect the robots to come for me so quickly. Seemed like it happened overnight. But, it's okay. Cellar Maker assured me that they think it's just kind of grimy, cutting out the artist from the whole process, and that beer labels done with AI, which is a thing, it's really a lot of them out there are. When people can tell, it just looks kind of low rent and cheap and makes you question the beer inside if they're going to skimp on the artwork. So yeah, now I spend my time doing labels for them and working on my own personal art. I've been getting into printmaking a lot lately, using gel plate prints, and I've been able to kind of carry that into the labels as well, which I think has been nice to kind of give it another step away from the real polished, computer images that AI tends to make. Feels more analog and just, I don't know, more real. And my imposter syndrome assures me that it's all moments away from collapsing. But all I can do is keep putting in the work, and I'm still not where I want to be skill-wise, but I've accepted that that's not an actual place you can be. It's going to be the rest of my life just trying to get better. And a big thing that I figured out was to stop kind of comparing my journey to any other artist, because comparison is the thief of joy, and I think it's never truer than when you're looking at someone else's social media. And one of the comments I've gotten, I got paid to know that. One of the comments I get from people all the time is, oh, I can never do what you do. I can't even draw a stick figure. But what I do is not special. Literally anyone can do it. You're just seeing the result of me chipping away that 10,000 hours, making art a priority. And, to anyone, I would say that the best time to start your own personal creative journey was 20 years ago. But the second best time is today. Thanks.
I could never do what he does. He's literally part of my stick figure spice world. So yes, I agree. Okay, we have about, depending on whether you've been here or not, we're gonna spend about 5 to 10 minutes doing some Q&A. I'm sure you have a lot of questions for Matt. Please ask. After that, we'll do public service announcements. If you have an event coming up, if you have an opportunity for people in the room that you want them to know about, if you need help with something, we're all here to help, and someone in this room probably knows someone who can help you get unstuck. That's what we're going to do after. At the very end, we are going to take a group picture. Please don't let me forget that we're going to take a beautiful picture wherever. Okay, Q&A with Matt.
Yeah, I have a practical question for you about when they started using the AI labels. Were they training AI on your art?
Ooh, that's a great question, and I don't know. Oh. Yeah, I found out from someone who I'm still friendly with over there that it is just an intern with a Midjourney account, and I don't know. I hope they aren't, but I guess technically is they paid for it as their art, and they could, but yeah, the whole thing is shady. Yeah. No.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of your revival, I guess we'll say, ties back to your coworker that recognized you were drawing. Were you open at that time that, hey, this is something that I'm just doing on my own, it brings me joy, or did they just recognize it? How were you?
Yeah, I was sharing my drawings on social media, so they'd seen it, and so I guess they just thought of me when they knew that someone needed illustration. And I kind of I chose this for my revival talk because I'd drawn a lot in high school and growing up my entire life, and I don't think that I have some kind of genetic advantage in drawing, but I do think because I come from a line of artists, I just saw it and maybe had a genetic desire to make art, and that's really all it takes. It's just about the time you put in. And but I went to college, and I drew freshman year, but then when you had to declare your major sophomore year, and I really didn't draw for about a decade after that. I doodle in meeting notes, but any work that I did outside of work, it was trying to teach myself the 3D software I needed for work, and it was just a lot of digital stuff. So picking up the sketchbook again was really a revival and kind of going back to why I liked art in the first place.
And also a testament of having the confidence to share what you're working on.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we want to keep it to ourselves,
Oh, yeah.
but how important it
Oh, I was hesitant to share some of these today.
Laura and then Caitlin.
So you also paint,
Mhm.
and like, obviously you're sort of the surreal, like, digital collage pieces you've done are really interesting. How do you define the difference between illustration and art? Like,
If you pay me to make it for you, that's illustration.
Okay.
That's kind of how I see it, you know. And if I'm making it on my own,
okay.
it's art. If I sell it, great. But you know, it's they're not that different, really. But I guess art. One of the things I really liked when I got into drawing and stuff was there's no client you need to answer to. There's no like brand voice you need to consider when you're making it's just letting the cosmic signal sort of flow through you. And so then I co-opted that by making it my career, which is iffy. But so yeah, I think it's tricky when you get money entangled into it. Yeah, they say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Do what you love, you're gonna be you'll just never stop working.
It sounds like the gel plate printing kind of refreshed your process. What else do you find keeps the process going for you and like refills your inspiration well?
Well, I'm very kind of ADD in what captures my attention. Even the gel plate, you know, I was super into it for like 3 months, and the first like 2 months were, you know, failure after failure until I started to get decent at it. And a lot of times that would have been it, and I would have moved on to something else. But that has come back a few times, so I think that's probably going to stick around. But yeah, I find like I'll be really into painting, and then suddenly I don't want to paint anymore, and I'll be really into doing the photo collage stuff, and then back to drawing. So it's just, I think changing mediums, changing subject matter, just like, you know, I envy the people who can just do the one thing and do it really well. I just don't have that kind of focus.
I'm wondering if you have any advice for parents, grandparents, other caregivers of children of how to foster creativity in young people.
I mean, so with my kid, and I do this with literally everything he does, I'm like, wow, buddy, you did a great caca today because you really practiced. I think growth mindset is huge. I was guilty of sort of seeing other people's art and being like, oh, that's so good. I wish I was that good. But wishing is not going to get you there, you know. So it's about putting the work in. And yeah, just fostering, you know, the growth mindset. Try to avoid like, oh, you're so good at it, because then they think it's tied intrinsically into who they are. But really, it's just about, oh, that's great that you express yourself through that, that you put the time in.
Questions over here, Lowell, and then Jeremy, and then Hannah.
Sounds like you are really good at giving yourself permission to do what you want when you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like there's also times when you are pushing yourself through a challenge. And I guess implied in that is something of, I don't want to do this, but I
Totally.
need to. So can you talk through that a little bit? What's the
Yeah.
difference, or how do you distinguish?
Well, it's tough because art's easy when the muse is talking to you, but when you do it for a living, you can't wait to hear her, you know. I think it makes it easy when that's how you put food on your table for your family. You have to do it, you know, even if it's not something you necessarily want to work on. And I do find myself, you know, I'll have an internalized list of all the things on my plate, and the first one I do is the one that's most fun, always. But deadlines are really supersede that. So if something's got a hard deadline, but it's not a fun project, I said, you know, I've got to make the time to do it.
But sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I do a quick follow-up. But is it all just money? I mean, that drives you, because like at the very beginning when you kind of had this epiphany, oh, she's good at drawing because she draws. Were you inspired enough by that moment that that drawing them became fun for you, and you just kept coming back to it each time because
Yeah,
it was fun?
yeah,
Okay,
totally.
okay.
And I still, now it's like whatever is fun for me at the moment. Like I said, the gel plate prints, or when I get into a phase where I'm painting, and it's like, well, the first half of painting, I think, God, well, I can't paint. What am I doing? And then once it starts to turn into something, I'm like, oh, this is actually really fun, and I get really into it. And then something in my brain just goes, no, you're done with that. And then I have to pivot and do another thing. So that part of me is sort of listening to what the universe is trying to guide me towards. But as far as like the freelance stuff, it's like, whatever work comes my way, I just have to do, even if it's not super fun.
I mean, with the other direction though, so you've gotten to explore different styles, different things you're exploring on your cans.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other like vehicles for your art you wish you could do a wine bottle or a Wheaties box?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, I would love to get into book covers. That was like a thing that I thought or like an album covers. I've done a handful of those. And these beer labels actually scratch that itch because I'm constantly able to change my style and change, what I'm working on, and sometimes bring things that I picked up from my personal art into it. So I would love to do like book covers and stuff. But yeah, I've done a lot of interesting things I wouldn't have thought. Like, so there's this restaurant down in New Orleans called Turkey and the Wolf, and the owner, chef, is actually from like north of Charlottesville. He's from around here, but they have really cool merchandise and and I've done a few T-shirts for them. They serve all their food on the old like McDonald's plates, like cartoon ones, And one night I'm falling asleep and I had this idea. I was like, oh my God, don't forget this idea. And just like said it in my head a dozen times. But I thought, what if we made new vintage McDonald's plates? So I was like, yo, I had this idea. He's like, I love it. How much do you want for it? I was like, I mean, it was my concept, maybe 40%. He's like, what about 50? I was like, all right. Yeah. So he's been great to work with. So we've released 3 so far. We got a 4th one coming out. But yeah, so we do these like limited edition plates, and he sells them online and he uses them in his restaurants. He's got like 4 restaurants now. So yeah, it's been fun.
I really hope that stickers are on that list of things
Oh yeah,
you
stickers
really wanna
are always,
design.
yeah.
Megan, can you pull up Charlottesville has the best stickers, y'all. No pressure, man. No pressure.
Mhm.
Just planting that seed to see when the universe strikes. Okay, we'll do 2 more. Emma, you had.
Oh, I was just trying to get your attention for these folks.
Gotcha. Okay, so we'll do John and Rachel. John and then Rachel.
Matt, I just love this work. It's very finished. I was curious about when you first get like the new name of the CAD. What's your process? Do you pitch like an idea? Do you sketch it?
Yeah.
This is obviously like beautifully rendered after many hours of.
Sometimes if I think my idea is good enough, I go straight to the final product, and that's bitten me in the ass a handful of times. But yeah, usually I'll do a quick sketch. If I have a lot of time, pencil in the sketchbook. Otherwise, it'll just be a sketch right on the iPad. And kind of send it over. They might have some notes, but pretty typically they're open to I've kind of got onto their wavelength and know what they're looking for. So I think after I've been working with them for like 4 years now, so and never even met them. Haven't even been to California, but yeah. So it's I've got an idea of what they're gonna go for, and even when I was working with Bobby, I knew he loved cyan and magenta, and anytime I wanted him to approve something, I would just make it cyan and magenta.
All right, Rachel, last question.
I have the same mentality as you, like that self-deprecating, like, oh, this sucks. So, when you have those epiphanies of, like something comes to mind and you're like, oh my God, I have to create that. When you start doing it, how do you get yourself out of, like, this sucks, this is not what I had in my mind, and like, you push yourself to get to that point?
Yeah, I think it helps to remember that I feel that about every single thing I do.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of my old stuff I don't like, but there's some successes in there too. And even when I started those, I was like, what am I doing? It's imposter syndrome, and that inner critic is your biggest critic, you know, and you just don't know what other people really think of your work, or how many people think it's great or feel the same way, like, oh, my stuff isn't good as they, and it's like just comparing to other people sucks. Everyone's on their own journey, and yeah, just kind of trust the process, and that's never true. Like, I do a handful of paintings a year. I don't pay a lot, but every single painting, like the first at least half to 2/3, it's just rough, and I'm like, what am I even doing? But then I remember like all the paintings I made that I like had the same exact, you know, inner monologue. So you just kind of got to ignore that and know that's not a real voice. That's not real, you know, and just kind of push through it.
Last question, because I'm up here. I have the proverbial mic. In terms of showing your art, selling your art, making more art, finding clients, how can this room support you in what you do?
That's a great question. So yeah, I'm at the Shenandoah Valley Art Center in their new building. I got a studio up there, and I'm there all the time, and the work's always changing, so you can pop by and say hi. And I sell some work out of there. Currently, I'm in a group show at the Walter Russell Museum in Waynesboro, which you haven't been. It's gorgeous. It's a huge space, and it's a really great group. I'm in a group show there, and it's all of the black and white public domain stuff. It's like 40 pieces of that. So if you like that, that'll be up, I think, until June maybe. I think it's up for a while. And yeah, otherwise, you know, follow me on Instagram if you want. I'm at Fear and Loading, and grab a card if you're interested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Big round of